Okay, there we go. So, hey guys, welcome to the third episode of what myths and mechanics of myths.
Mechanics of myths.
I think I done messed up our whole name just like out the gate. It's been one of those days though. You know, so
Mythical mechanics.
yeah, you have mythical mechanics, mechanics of heroes. Listen, we're gonna be, you know how like, like how you're in a family, and you just got brothers, sisters, and cousins, and it's like when one of you gets in trouble, y'all just become each other's names.
Oh yeah. Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
your name just eventually devolves into what your name is because they can never get, come here, John, Drew, what your name is. It's just what your name is. So I think that's the moment that I had right there.
That's fine.
Mechanics of
That's fine.
mythical mechanics. Listen, it's gonna be in the title, so you know it is what it is. We can all listen. I'm 30 plus years old. That's just gonna happen from time to time. I don't even care at this point. I'm starting to get into like my not caring as much era, you know?
You're getting there late, dude.
No, well, but I'm a black and white thinker, so a lot of the
Oh,
stuff is like
yeah.
stringent for the most part. So now I'm still the same black and white I've always been. Now it's just like, do I want to really expend the energy to like really like get on people or like quote unquote correct people? It's not that they're not correct. It's just that, sometimes we just got a different way of seeing things. And sometimes their way of seeing things and my way of seeing things is not compatible. It's just what it is. Um, and sometimes you just gotta let people, do their
People.
own thing and hopefully they don't trip on their face while they do it. But yeah, I mean, look, to be honest, the same point in time, right? If you come to me and ask for advice, I'm not saying you, but like as a person in general, if somebody comes to me and asks for advice, right? And I tell you, hey, do it like this, boom, 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 A, B, and C, right? And you say, nah, I don't want to do it that way. You don't say that verbally, but you say that with your actions.
Yeah.
And the way that you display of taking in that information is like you don't really value it as much, like you didn't even consider it. I'm just be like, I'm not gonna hope you fall flat on your face, but at the same time, I'm gonna be like, if this blows up in your face, it's your own doggone fault. So,
I'll sit
that's
back with popcorn.
I don't know if I sit back with popcorn, but
I will.
yeah, yeah, but I'm not gonna have the sympathy. I'm not
Yeah.
gonna have the
Yeah.
sympathy. I'll listen, I'm already cold-blooded. So I don't I'm more cold-blooded than I would say the average person, but I'm not so cold-blooded to where like I'm like in that in-between spot. I'm like
So in,
75%.
in between average and me.
Like I'm not like I'm no like like I have a heart. It's just
Yeah.
it's just listen, there's a difference between Antarctica and Alaska,
Yes.
whereas
Yes.
most people are in the mainland of the United States,
Hmm. Hmm.
So I'm Alaska. I'm Alaska. I'm Alaska.
All
So,
right. All right. Yeah.
oh, but yeah, man. So, you know what? The one thing I was thinking about
Yeah.
was I think we talked about it well, probably episode one. The what's that game called? Because I don't play it. It's called The Division.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
Division. I remember when that game first came out.
Mhm.
people were saying how bullet spongy like some of the enemies were, the bosses.
Yes, 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 very
But
much so.
yeah, yeah, well, like if you're trying to make an RPG, and maybe this is a good question to ha ask, if you're gonna make an RPG, right, and you want people to level up, is the best way to do it while maintaining the sense of action? Is it best to put the RPG mechanics on the weapons in that sense? If you have like some type of firearm, gun, projectile, is that the best way to do that, especially if it's, let's say, in modern times, like it's like a realistic fiction. So yeah, like let's say a division, right, where they do have M4s or M4 likes or AKs or something like that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, I would say if it's done correctly, sure. There's you know, there's a saying in the military community which is don't try to take down a large caliber man with a small caliber bullet.
Right.
So if they were to implement, hey, you need to get a better weapon for this guy, so let's just stick with handguns because handguns is a little bit easier scope.
Yeah.
So let's say you're running out there with a 380 special. Okay.
Hmm.
The thing about a 380 special, it is significantly less powder and significantly smaller than a 9 millimeter.
Hmm.
So diameter size, it's close to the same as a 9 millimeter, but as far as like overall capacity and able to penetrate, a 380 does not have the same effect as a 9 millimeter.
Hmm.
So if you're going to war and you're going up against dudes that have 9 millimeters, right? And they're just like, they got you cornered and you only got a 380, chances are they're going to be able to actually shoot through your cover to hit you. So take count body armor, right?
Hmm.
There's different levels of body armor. So most handguns won't go through body armor. This is how it goes.
Hmm.
Um, but if you have a high enough caliber of well, not even high enough, but if you have the right velocity and the right caliber of weapon, which 9 millimeter currently, I would say 9 millimeter is starting to surpass a lot of the calibers. And this is coming from somebody who carries a 45 every day, and I love my 45. But I'm also a realist, and the nine is starting to actually, in a lot of ways, overtake the 45. Now, when it comes to that kind of situation, where if somebody's off in a distance and you're trying to punch through something to hit them, like a car window or a piece of drywall or something like that, if you try to do that with a 45, there's a chance that you're going to lose terminal velocity before they even hit the target. So the 9 millimeter is going to be a better chance. A 380 won't even go through, it might go through the first window, but it ain't going to go through the second window because it doesn't have enough terminal velocity due to the fact for the lack of black powder that's inside the bullet cartridge itself.
Hmm.
So that being said, in those games, if you come to a situation where you're going up against somebody that has body armor and all you've had is pistols at this point, let's say you do have a nine, and they go, now's your opportunity to grab a new weapon. Do you want the P90, which is essentially a smaller 5.56 round, but it's meant for kind of similar to a handgun cartridge. They actually have an
Oh,
FN57, so
I
it's a
was about
five
to say
seven
the
round.
5.7. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a 5.7 round, but shot through a semi-automatic or fully automatic, depending on what you get. P90, which technically speaking, I don't really agree with this because Second Amendment, but whatever. Apparently, the fully auto for civilians is against the law, which is just stupid. Anyway, constitutional.
Yeah,
Here's the
yeah,
thing.
yeah. Yeah, yeah.
I'm gonna get a little bit. I'm gonna get on a high horse for a second.
Sure.
When the Constitution was written, um, civilians had cannons. The
Yeah.
military actually borrowed cannons from civilians to fight the British off.
That was desperate
So
times though.
it was
When
desperate
everybody
times, but at
when
the same
everybody was
time, like,
villages and they were dumping tea in the harbor.
listen, we in desperate times now. They did that for a 2 cents tax. We got a 25% tax since 2020 currently.
Yeah.
I'm going to be doing a lot more than dumping tea in the harbor. Anyway, getting off the high horse, getting back on target.
Yep.
So P90,
Yep.
the 5.7 round. The
Yep.
5.7 round is good. It doesn't have the same amount of black powder. It doesn't have the same amount of terminal velocity. It doesn't have the same amount of punching power as a 5.56 or even a 2.23. Now, the issue here is what do you want to rock? Do you want to rock the 5.56 to where you um, might be able to go through plate armor, or do you want to go with the 7.62 where you have a little bit of fat around it? Might not go through the plate armor, but it's going to hurt. And it's going to, if it hits flesh, the person's going down. I think if you were to take a game where you had to have that kind of decision making, and you had to think as an operator, that would be very beneficial. Because think of a game like this. If you grab the P90, which has the 5.7 round, if you grab that, you will have more rounds than anything else on your person because it's a smaller round, it's easier to carry, not as heavy, so you can have more of it capacity wise. Or you could use the 5.56 round, which you won't have as much rounds as the 5.7, but you will have better penetration power as well as terminal velocity than the 5 and 7, and also the 7.62 round. Now, 7.62 is great at distance. 7.62 is great when you hit somebody. I'm not dogging the 7.62. It's a great round.
Hmm.
There's a reason why the military uses it for their sniper rifles at this point. Semi-automatic sniper rifles, not so much the bolt rifles, but the semi-automatic they do. You can have that in your teammates. So the people that you're allied with might have 5.56. So kind of like standard military, or even the police officers will have 5.56 because police officers have AR-15s as well,
Right.
and M4s as well. Or you can go with the 7.62, which is what the enemy is carrying. So you take them down, and you can then also have ammo from there. From them. So it's one of those where it would cause somebody to have a realistic mindset about it. And it would also challenge them to kind of learn weapon platforms better. And I think, honestly, I think that would be a great idea because there's a lot of people that still think that a Desert Eagle is the most powerful weapon you can have. If you have a Deagle, you're not going to get taken down and all this stuff. And it's like, listen, there's a lot of power in a Desert Eagle. You're not going to put off as many rounds as I do with a 9 or even a 45 before you squeeze off. In the matter of time it takes you to squeeze off 2 or 3 rounds with a 50 cal. If you're a standard person, not like, Alan Richardson, Jack Reacher, just monster of a human being.
Right.
Um, by the time you squeeze off 2, I've probably put 5 or 6 into your chest.
Yeah.
And I'm not a trained shooter. I'm a self-trained shooter. Now you put a trained shooter in there, they're probably going to have an entire, if not an entire mag, most of the mag dumped into you before you even get off that first or second round. So you better not miss,
Right.
kind of situation, you know? So
The
I
aim
think in
has
that
to be
sense,
immaculate.
immaculate. Yeah, absolutely precise, which with the Desert Eagle is very hard because it's a heavy weapon for one. So putting it out here, that's a heavy gun to hold out that long period of time. It's also a very long nose. The very long nose, if you don't know how to shoot iron sights correctly, you're going to either hit high or you're going to hit low. The fact that it's heavy, you're probably going to hit low. That, and if you're expecting the recoil to 50, you're going to kind of pull back, which you're going to wind up going off target anyway because you're going to jerk it to the right or jerk it to the left. And you might take off an arm, but you're not going to hit vital organs, you know? So it's kind of one of those. And you won't necessarily take off an entire arm, but you can render it useless with a 50 cal that within, a Desert Eagle within like 30, 50 yards, no problem.
Yeah.
Um, but as far as gaming goes, like I think that if they were to have that tier list of like, okay, now you have a brand new let's just go with the standard what people usually carry nowadays. You had a Gen 3 Glock that you found used that was a little beat up. It's a Glock 19 Gen 3. It's beat up. The trigger is a little bit spongy. The slide is a little bit shaky because it's just been through it. And you got a little bit of electrical tape around the grip so you can have a better handhold because all of the grooves on the grip have worn down from use. Not a bad gun, but the firing pin is probably going to be a little bit lackluster. It's probably going to jam a lot because the slide is a little loose. You're probably going to wind up having it twist in your hand a little bit when you're shooting because the grip isn't fully there. That's why you have the electrical tape. So, is it a good weapon? Does it work? Sure. Is it efficient? Kinda. But now you open up a weapons case and you find a brand new Glock 5 or Glock 19 Gen 5,
Right.
right? Which is what all the military and all the police are currently carrying at this moment. So now you can pick up that. Okay, now you have a new weapon that has a tight trigger. It has a tight slide. It has um, basically everything that you want. The only thing that you have to worry about is was it looped correctly when it got put in the crate? Because if it's not, then there's going to be friction and you're going to jam there too. But at the end of the day, like as far as gameplay goes with Division, especially because Division kind of works in an interesting way where you have like I think if I remember right, you start out with like white weapons and it goes to
Purple.
purple, then yellow, then red. And red is like exotic. Um,
Interesting. Okay. There's
yeah,
not so
yeah,
it doesn't do like I don't know if you play like Ghost Recon
hmm
Wildlands
hmm
um or Breakpoint, whichever one.
hmm I played
But
both.
okay. Yeah, well, I think Breakpoint was the sequel, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So they have a thing to where it starts off as white. I think it goes to blue, then green, then
hmm
purple, then like
Then yellow.
yellow. Yeah, for
hmm
like super rare or legendary or something like that.
Yeah, yeah. I think the reason why Division went that route was because they were, in a way, kind of in direct opposition with Destiny. So they
Okay.
couldn't necessarily do what Destiny did, which Destiny was white, green, blue, purple, exotic was yellow. So they had to throw something else in there, so they threw the red in there, which is an exotic. Now they do the same system as Destiny does with exotics, which is if you have an exotic equipped in your weapons, that is the only exotic you can equip at that time. If you have an exotic equipped in your armor or your uniform or whatever, your tactical gear,
Hmm.
that is the only exotic that you can equip. Same
Well,
thing. But
I think RPGs are starting to do more of that. I see. Well, maybe. Mm, I'll say Starfield. So Starfield, well, the game that came out, what was that like last September? Um,
the one where you disappeared for 3 months.
yeah, I disappeared for a week. I disappeared for a week, but I was listen. That was supposed to be like the
I
hope
know, I
of
know.
Bethesda, right?
I
And
know. And you gave me a heads up. You're like,
yeah,
I'm gonna
I
be out
gave
of commission.
yeah. No, I gave certain people a hit because see, here's the thing. I brought the like deluxe edition or something like that. And
Yeah.
I could play it like a day early or something like 24 hours early. I think I legit like um put a vacation in at work for that because I'm like, oh yeah, no, we getting it in. So, but as I was playing that,
Yeah.
they did a similar thing with their weapon system, whereas white, blue. I think they skipped green and went to purple, and then it was just yellow. I think they just had the four. But the reason why I bring up specifically like things like division and
Mm-hmm.
Breakpoint is because, for all intents and purposes, they're realistic weapons, you know?
hmm
It's kind of, I mean, they're based off of the real models if they're not the exact same models of the ones that's in real life, right? And so then when you
yeah.
in, I know within games there's like some type of relative space for like, okay, we know this is a game. If you
Hmm.
got shot
Hmm.
in real life, you're probably gonna be dead, even if you got hit in the leg or something,
A
right?
leg's a
You're
very bad place to get shot.
if you got hit in the leg or like in the arm or something like
Yeah.
that, even if it's like a non-vital spot, like I
Hmm.
feel like most people that are not military trained are gonna be
Hmm.
out of commission.
Oh yeah. Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
so
for sure.
even with some of those like lower caliber of you know
No,
weapons, right?
22 or something. Yeah.
Right, because it's like, first of all, the shock of dealing with it. Most people don't have their like the muscle mass of the person, right?
Yeah.
Is how much is that going to stop the bullet, even if you're, relatively fit, if you're just like
Yeah.
not used to dealing with like the tough and then military just have different clothes like they have like a contractor that makes their clothes special to extra tough to where it's like it can handle bullets a certain type of way. um
To a degree, yeah. Yeah.
I mean it's not like wearing this, it's not like
Right. Yeah.
um but I
Well,
said
I mean, it's not John Wick level, but they have plate carriers and stuff like that, if
First of
that's what you
all,
mean.
first of all, John Wick is a walking cheat code.
Yes, he is.
First of all, this dude is fall damage proof. He is
Hmm.
bulletproof.
Hmm.
This dude,
Hmm.
without his suit, fell off of a what was it, 4 or 5, 6 story building. I think hit at least one of like the fire escapes on the way down, and bounced off of what was it, a
Hmm.
garbage can, and
Yeah,
landed
yeah, and
directly on
landed
like
on the concrete.
on the concrete and was
Yeah,
like
it was a
perfectly,
car.
huh?
I think it was a car he bounced off. I think it was a car he bounced off, not a
Oh,
garbage can. I'm trying to remember.
yeah, well,
Yeah.
it don't
Either
help
way.
the case. This dude,
Yeah.
did you watch the fourth one?
I did. I
This
did.
this dude went up against all of like Paris.
I know. I know.
And and this is what he did. He did this. He was shooting at people
Hmm.
like this. Like, how you gonna just, they did that for a legit battle. Like, this dude
I
is just
know. I
bulletproof.
know.
Like, I'm like,
I know it. I
I'm
know.
done with y'all. What,
Yeah, yeah, way over the top.
yeah, like I think
Yeah,
he might be more Batman than Batman is, and he don't even have like stuff like that for real. Like, but
yeah.
I
You know
said
what's
that,
funny about that? I want to touch on this real quick.
yeah, yeah,
What's
yeah.
funny about that is that used to be the thing back
Hmm.
in the 70s, going into the 90s, right? It's
Hmm.
like, oh, we want our hero to be bulletproof and nothing can touch him. Da, 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 da. Something happened to us as a society in the 90s and the early 2000s. It might have been 9/11. I'm not sure. But something happened to us in this moment because all of a sudden everybody was a pessimist. They're like, he'd be dead.
Oh yeah, yeah,
He'd
yeah,
be,
yeah.
he'd be so dead. Make
Yeah.
it real.
You know why? You know what I think it is? Special
Huh.
effects. I think that's like I think it was the first of all, it
Yeah,
was the 90s was a weird time because
it was.
it had simultaneously like some of the greatest movies and yet some
Hmm.
of the worst written movies. Like I remember like okay, I remember thinking about I remember watching this a few years ago, right? Um I remember it came on Netflix. It was the first Bad Boys.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And I watched that.
Terribly written.
Terribly
Terribly
written.
written.
It like
Terribly written.
it's a good movie, but it's
Yeah.
only because it's nostalgia. It's nostalgia
Yeah.
makes you think it's like a well-written movie, and it's not. It's
Yeah.
like you
No.
like there was no connection to the like stripper that got killed, right?
None.
And
Yeah.
and like cause she showed up for all of like 5 minutes and then
Yep.
they had Mike Lowry, played by
Hmm.
Will Smith, have him like almost like breaking down, like seeing like or at least mentally distressed over like this stripper's death. And it was like
Yeah.
we as the audience, we didn't get to know her. So it was like,
Mhm.
why do you care about this lady?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and then it was like, it, I don't know. It was a bunch of action, right? When you look at 90s, it was a bunch of action, and they
Mhm.
ramped up. They ramped up like their special effects, their visual effects, their practical visual effects. I think it was like peak that, and then
Mhm.
like cinematography was just starting to catch its footing. And
Mhm.
so when you
Mhm.
had like and then, certain stars were starting to come into their own. Tom
Oh
Cruise
yeah.
with Mission Impossible, Will Smith was starting
Yep.
to be an action star. You had
Mhm.
Jackie Chan come out. You seen some, you didn't see a whole lot of Jet Li stuff, but then you had like then you had the Lethal Weapons, some of the lethal,
Mhm.
you had lethal, was it second one or third one that came out in the early 90s? Then you had Lethal Weapon 4 that came out in 98, 97, 98. Then yeah, 97, 98. Then you had Rush Hour, the first Rush Hour that come out in 90. And so Money Talks, all this stuff, right?
Yeah.
The first Mortal Kombat. So you had this type of cinematography to where it was like, oh, special effects
Mhm.
were just starting to get good and starting to be, and
Mhm.
nobody had ever seen it. Like the CGI was just starting to get good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Good, right? It's not
Yeah.
like how we know
Yeah.
it today. And then it was like
No.
the story, they just let the special effects do their storytelling. So
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think that's what it was.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, like if you want to break down specifically Lethal Weapon versus Rush Hour.
Yeah,
So let's look at that for a second. I would argue, as far as storyline goes,
yeah,
Lethal Weapon was a better story, better plot.
yeah, yeah. I don't disagree.
Um, Better action was Rush Hour because
Yeah.
of Jackie Chan.
Yeah,
Because of
yeah,
Jackie
yeah,
Chan.
yeah.
Jackie Chan knows how to fight. Jackie Chan knows how to put his body in a situation where he's going to miss a kick, he's going to miss a punch. What he did with the steering wheel in the first Rush Hour, where he was
Oh
handcuffed to the
yeah.
steering wheel and he broke it free, which I mean, like, yeah, that's what you would do if somebody handcuffs you to a steering wheel. You break that thing off, especially if it's an old steering wheel that's only held in there by one bolt. Like, that's not hard to break off.
Right.
So, especially for somebody, people don't realize this. Jackie Chan's a big dude.
Yeah.
Jackie Chan's
Like
like
weight
five
wise?
nine. Yeah, yeah. He's like he's a little heavy. He's not like heavy heavy,
No, no, no. I
but
just meant
for
in terms of muscle, like compared to
yeah,
his for
yeah,
his height.
yeah. No, for sure. Well, I mean, also he's kind of taller than people expect him to be.
Yeah.
Like people expect him to be like 5'6", 5'7". He's like 5'9", 5'10", you
Yeah.
know, which doesn't account much if somebody's just thinking about it. But if you have somebody stand next to each other where somebody's 5'6" and somebody's 5'10", it looks like an astronomical difference.
Mm,
And his body fits his build, which means that he's just solid, and dude knows how to fight. So the fact that he went in, ripped off the steering wheel, and then like did what he did against the gun guys with the steering wheel, like wrapping up their arms and everything with it, and
mm-hmm,
ripping the gun out of their hand with the steering wheel, that's like if you're gonna take a gun from somebody and you got a weapon literally attached to you,
mm-hmm.
why wouldn't you use it? Versus Jet Li's in Lethal Weapon 4, where all of a sudden he grabs the gun and then he strips it somehow. Like
Yeah.
that's
If I guess if certain thing like I guess if there was a certain weapon that he was using, maybe the button just to press the button and the slide comes off or something like that. During
no,
that
because
time.
he stripped a Glock.
Which but like were they like easier how am I supposed to was it more easier to strip back then?
No,
Like,
No.
cause you talked about the different
Yeah.
generations of Glocks, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I'm
Yeah.
like,
So
wondering if the changes that were made at that time made it possible for that to be stripped, like that generation.
I don't think so. Let me, you know what? I'm gonna double check my thought there because it might not have been a Glock. I know that one was a Beretta for sure. It may have
Yeah,
been a Beretta.
yeah.
Um,
Which was like the staple back in the 90s.
yeah, which is just not a good weapon.
What, Berettas?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, listen, I don't know nothing about
Well,
that.
in Beretta M9s, they just don't. Their firing pin is not that good. Um, so anyway,
Yeah.
uh,
While you're looking that up, I will say this,
yeah,
and
yeah.
then like I think I think also, you know what I also think
Mhm.
gets a bad rap in like movies,
Hmm,
or actually who in movies gets a bad rap?
hmm.
Stormtroopers.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Because you know how the whole thing is like stormtrooper aim and all this other stuff. I'm like, wait
Mhm.
a minute. Wait a minute. We're not just gonna pretend like gunfight scenes from like all of action movies of the 90s, early 2000s, and even some even now didn't have like just regular gunfights where they was just trading shots, missing people, like, and somehow this one dude, aka John Wick at this point, was just able to run through everybody, you know, and they're missing, but he's somehow able to hit everyone. Like Stormtrooper aim, like I'm like, no, they just did what they really just they really actually, when you think about it, they set the pace for how gunfights work in the future of cinema.
Yeah, yeah.
Even if you look at like the very first Lethal Weapon, first couple of Lethal Weapons, they was trading shots back and forth, and they was like
Hmm,
missing somehow, and they was like
hmm.
kind of at the same distance that the stormtroopers were. So I think Stormtrooper gets a bad rap.
I think um, the problem is they prefaced it with Ben Kenobi saying, "Stormtroopers are expert sharpshooters. I never miss their mark," and that was the terrible Ben Kenobi. But
Oh,
anyway, he
gotcha.
talks about how they're sharpshooters, that they never miss.
Hmm.
Right? He's telling this to Luke. He's saying they're the elite of the elite soldiers there are and gunmen there are, and yet they're missing every time. So it's like, are they though?
Yeah,
Are they though?
right.
So that's kind of, I think that's the reason why they get the bad rap is because they were supposed to be like amazing, this amazing soldier and elite operative, and they just weren't. They weren't, you know.
Yeah.
But then again, like you could take the most elite of the elite in the middle of a gunfight, you're probably gonna miss. To be honest, But yeah. mm. Now, okay, they had a Beretta M9.
Okay.
Okay, so a Beretta M9, the way you strip it, based upon what I'm seeing here, because I've never actually stripped a Beretta M9 myself, but my assumptions were correct. First of all, you can't field strip it without it being completely loaded, which Riggs had one in the chamber. We know that because he slapped a round in and he racks it. Okay.
Hmm.
In order for Jet Li to be able to strip that weapon, Riggs would have had to drop the mag, eject the chamber, the one in the chamber, and then point it at Jet Li after putting the mag back in so nothing was in there.
Hmm.
At that point, Jet Li would have then had to grab the mag, hit the button, and pull the trigger with his middle finger, and then rip the whole thing out of the way while still engaging the trigger halfway down the slide while he rips the upper off of the lower.
So the way I'm gonna justify is this: he was too good. He was just too good. Listen, listen. remember, this is the same dude that was hopping between universes that was just like, he was lifting, Jet Li was the dude that was lifting up motorcycles, just smashing cops. Pause. But like he was actually like,
He's not that good of a fighter. Jet Li's not a good fighter. I'm sorry. He's good in comparison to like people, but as far as like
his martial arts knowledge is actually like
his knowledge is good, but his capacity is not good. Jet Li would lose to Jackie Chan 9 times out of 10. Jet Li would lose to
maybe.
Scott Atkins. No, 100%. Jet Li would
Wait a
lose to
minute.
Scott Atkins 10 out of 10.
I would agree with Scott Atkins. I don't know about Jackie Chan. Only reason why I don't know about Jackie Chan is, well, there's a couple of reasons because I was actually watching a an interview that Michael Jai White did, and
Yes.
he was talking about like, listen, these are the top like movie stars that are like legit martial artists in their capabilities, and
Yeah, yeah.
and Michael Jai White, he's no slouch. He's like, I think he's
No,
actually
he
won.
dude knows how to fight.
Right. He has actually won competitions. And you know what? It's funny because I think he did something like at a Gold's Gym or something like that to where like he kicked a heavy bag off the chain like
Hmm.
because of his like perfect technique, and he's just like that strong. And one of the things that he said was he was like look, he was like he went down the list. He was like, okay, yeah, Bruce Lee has this, and he was the one that, you know, um, not just mixed styles, but he was mixing he was combining the martial arts with the philosophy of it.
Hmm.
And then
Hmm.
he said, he was talking about Jackie Chan. I think he was talking about the durability of Jackie Chan.
Yeah.
He mentioned Jason Statham. He put Jason Statham in the conversation. Bolo Young, he mentioned him. John Claude
Hmm.
mentioned him. He mentioned another guy that Jackie Chan did a movie with. I want to say it's a French guy, but I can't remember what his name is. I want to say it's Sebastian something, but I can't remember. Um, and one of the dudes that he mentioned was Jet Li, and he was like, yeah, no, he was like, people don't understand how um underrated Jet Li is when like where he came from as far as like where he was learning like his martial arts um um in Beijing, right? And
Yeah.
and and that he just like he learned all these styles and everything like that since the age of 3. So w my whole thing is saying, now is he look, movie magic, right? Is he good enough to
Yeah. Yeah.
like do all that in real life? Probably not. But I don't think really anybody is unless God gave somebody temporary God of War Ragnarok time shift abilities,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
but the but the but like his whole like the fact that he's been doing it like from a very young age and studying all these styles
Hmm.
and winning all these competitions, and then
Yes,
also
but my
come from a family that just does that regularly.
yeah, but my argument is this. I
Yeah,
agree with you. Like if he goes up against a regular dude or somebody that kind of knows how to fight, he's going to tool him up
right.
because he's trained in that. There's there's a difference when it comes to talent though. There's a saying, hard work beats talent when talent doesn't know how to work hard. And then the question is, okay, well, what if talent works hard? He goes, well, stay out of the way. is kind of how that goes.
So then
Um,
the question becomes, are you saying he's not talented, but he worked hard? Or are you saying he works hard, but there's no talent?
he's talented and he's worked hard, but
Okay.
does his talent match the talent of Jackie Chan? I don't think so. And Jackie Chan
Probably.
outworked him. Jackie Chan outworked Jet Li,
What do you mean?
continues to outwork Jet Li. Jackie Chan has not only, if you watch his fighting style throughout the years,
Yeah,
um, if he were to, uh, so let's say Lethal Weapon is Jet Li's prime,
right.
right? So if Lethal Weapon is Jet Li's prime, then Bangkok, China, or well, what would that one be with Jackie Chan, where he's running all over the place, flipping off buildings and stuff like that? Um,
Who am I?
Rumble
No.
in,
Rumble in the
Rumble in,
Bronx?
uh, Rumble in the Bronx. Yeah,
Yeah,
he was quick, he was agile, he was durable. That's his special talent is his durability
right.
when it comes to that aspect. But he also, you would see how he would change up his attacks based upon every person that came at him. It wasn't uh, oh, I'm just this dude that knows how to hit you and move on to the next person.
Hmm.
It was very much okay, I'm going to see what you do, and I'm going to counter what you do in a quick fashion that the cameras actually didn't really catch a lot of what he was doing. He had to slow down for the cameras
Hmm.
because the motion picture speed just couldn't capture it. A lot like Bruce Lee, they couldn't capture his speed. He was just too quick.
Right.
So Jet Li is very good, don't get me wrong. But in a straight up fight, Jet Li practiced mostly kung fu with Shaolin monks and stuff like that.
Right.
They don't really fight. They do a lot of flashy things, but they don't really fight too often.
Hmm.
Jackie Chan, on the other hand, did a lot of similar style to Bruce Lee, which was
Jeet Kune Do.
Jeet Kune Do. Also, uh, what did IP Man do or Ip Man do? I'm trying to
Wing
remember.
Chun.
Wing Chun. Wing Chun alone. Okay, people
Yeah.
people play it down.
No, Wing Chun is yeah. Wing Chun is top tier.
You will get messed up.
Yeah.
You know, you will get messed up. Who knows how to do Wing Chun? Um, Forget your flashy stuff. Okay. Jet Li's going to have a problem because Jackie Chan is going to see the flashy and he's going to go, I'm going to do my crazy stuff that I do to close distance. I'm not going to be running from you. I'm going to close distance on you because Jackie Chan is bigger than Jet Li, for one. For two, he's just all around um, a more durable fighter. So, would they be hitting each other? Yes. Would there be a lot of connections? Would there be a lot of give and take? And would they be filling each other out for a while? Sure, it's going to be a good fight. But
Hmm.
the durability of Jackie Chan, that's his special talent. And because he works hard on top of that,
Right.
I don't I don't think that Jet Li walks away from that 9 out of 10 times. He might win 20%, maybe
I
30,
I say
maybe 30.
I will say because of Jackie Chan's durability,
Yeah.
I do say that he edges him out. I what I will say is because of, you know, um because we're basing this off of like the films, right?
Yeah,
So we
yeah, yeah.
only have that to go. But if the interview is anything to go by, I'm not sure if wushu martial arts is the only thing that Jet Li knows how
It's
to
not the
do
only thing that he knows, but it's the thing that he mostly would do,
in
is what
film.
I'm saying, in film.
Right.
So if we're taking the two film fights, put
Okay.
those styles together. Now, if we're talking them actually face head to head in real life and
Right.
no cameras rolling, they're just going to fight it out. I still think that Jackie Chan wins because Jackie
Yeah,
Chan
no, that's what
has
I'm
studied a
saying.
lot of martial arts too.
Right.
A lot of martial arts. You know, he Wing Chun, Ninjutsu, which I mean, that's more of his flashy acrobatic stuff. with that one.
He does a lot of
But
parkour.
there's a lot of parkour. But he also, if he's locked in a room with the dude, he ain't going to be doing parkour. He's going to be, all right, I'm going to take you down. I'm putting my Muay Thai, my Wing Chun, my kickboxing,
Yeah.
and my grappling to work. Because Jackie Chan has amazing grappling. People don't see
Yeah.
that. But his grappling, the only person that's as good as he is, if not better, is probably Michael J. White or Scott Atkins when it comes to grappling. Because there's just the way that he positions his body in grappling that you can tell he actually studied grappling. Because he'll
Hmm.
throw a punch, but when he goes to throw a punch, he'll wrap somebody up in the
Right.
films, and then all of a sudden he'll be flipping and taking them down and everything. Those are legit takedowns that he's doing. It's not a, you know, it's not a fake takedown. It's a legit takedown. So, yeah, I think what Jet Li has going for him is Jet Li is a master class kung fu artist, like
Okay.
master class, really good at what he does. What Jackie Chan has going for him is he is master class at nothing, but he is an expert in a lot of things.
Okay.
Um, where Jet Li may be a master class on one thing and an expert in a couple things, or three or four things, he's always going to go back to his original thing because that's what makes sense to him. Jackie Chan's going to throw stuff at him that he doesn't expect. I don't think he's going to come out and do Drunken Master against him.
No, 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 no. I think so. You say 80-20. You say 80-20 in the
Maybe 70-30, maybe 70, but
see,
I
I
would
was
lean towards 80-20.
yeah, with Jackie Chan, right? I was gonna say
Hmm.
60-40 with Jackie Chan coming out.
Okay. Yeah.
Uh,
How
j-
tall
j-
is Jet Li?
I think he's about what you said. What'd you say?
I think he's like 5'6".
Yeah, I think that's about right.
Find out here. Yeah, he's 5'6".
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so Jackie Chan's 5'9". He's got reach on Jet Li. He's got power because he
Hmm.
outweighs him. He's got
Yeah.
durability, and
And
he
he
knows how to use distance.
yeah,
So,
I think his I also think like you said, part of what plays into that is I think when you look at how he moves, right?
mhm.
Sometimes he hasn't been, at least in the movies, he hasn't been so aggressive
Yeah,
because most of his fights was like, first of all, group fights. And then with
yeah,
group
yeah.
fights, he typically tries to get away,
Hmm.
and not like do that whole what Bruce Lee used to do in his martial arts movies, which is let's let everybody.
Watch out!
Well, no, let's let all of us surround the one dude and let's
Yeah,
take turns,
trying to
one or
attack
two.
him. Yeah.
You're right. I think what Jackie Chan is more realistic, where it's like run away, try to get to
Mm,
like a place to where you can maybe fight one, maybe two at a time. Hopefully it's just
mm,
one, and then kind of
yeah.
like knock them out that way.
Mm,
And then try to place yourself in a position of where it's like, oh,
mm,
easily able to take down, use whatever is there, which I
mm,
think
mm.
if you're considering like I think Jackie Chan between Jet Li and Jackie Chan, he's the more realistic fighter.
Yes. Yeah. That's
Yeah.
what I was saying.
Yeah.
Um, I would love to see Jackie Chan in his prime versus Donnie Yen in his prime.
Oh, they they got a CGI video of that.
I
You
know they
ever see
do.
that?
I know. Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
But it doesn't quite capture, you know,
And then they
like
changed it to like Bruce Lee or something like that. Once
yeah, I
like
changed to Bruce Lee.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I
Donnie
thought that
Yen
was
versus
pretty
Bruce
cool.
Lee.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, it
yeah.
was cool. It was cool. Don't get me wrong, it was cool.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, no, Donnie Yen, man. Like,
Oh, that's the other person he mentioned.
yeah, yeah. The dude's good.
Yeah.
The dude is so good. Um, I loved his character in John Wick 4 too. Like, Dude's just
Oh,
trying to take care of his daughter, and he should be the main character of the next one. I think they're going to make him the main character of the next one, or John is
nah.
going to try to
You
avenge
talk
his
about the
death or something.
no, you talk about the ballerina.
Ballerina.
You didn't see the trailer for the ballerina? A John Wick
No,
story? Yeah,
no.
it's gonna come out next year. No,
Oh,
the main character is supposed to take place between 3 and 4, so it's like 3.5. And
okay.
and so guess who the main character is?
Halle Berry.
No. Although
Okay.
if it was her character in it, that wouldn't have been a bad choice. Nah, it's uh it's Ana de Armas.
Okay.
You know who I'm talking about?
Yeah, I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. She's the
Why?
ballerina.
Why?
Um, so basically, she's the Black Widow of the of the John Wick universe, where
Yeah, I know.
like somehow she got into like I don't know what the story is precisely, but it's something like oh, her parents died or something happened. She got orphaned. Something happened. Maybe she got kidnapped. I don't know. But somehow she ends up becoming a ballerina, but they also train her to like assassinate people at the same time. So this it sounds like very like Black Widow-ish.
Mm.
Um, but just in John Wick. That's really what it sounds. I'm about to look up the story.
That's exactly Black Widow.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, that
They
I was
just
trying to tell you.
rinse and repeat, copy and you know what they should have done? I don't know why they didn't do this. They set up an amazing character with I don't remember his name, but the black dude with the dog in John Wick 4.
Oh, I know who you're talking about.
Take him and take that the Donnie Yen character, you know, Donnie Yen gets stabbed by the dude's daughter when he's going to meet his daughter, because that's how John Wick 4 ends. If you haven't seen it yet, shame on you. But that's how it ends.
You're talking to the
And she's
audience,
like,
right?
yes, I am.
Because
And she I
I
know, I
watched
know.
that.
She walks up to him. She walks up to him like he's walking to his daughter, and she's walking up to him, and you know something's gonna happen, and that's how they end it. Now, if he gets hurt and then the black dude winds up going to go get retribution for him, like that black dude with his dog was
Mhm.
honestly an amazing character that was so underplayed. And people are like, well, John Wick is so much better than him and everything. It's like, dude, I don't know, because he didn't have a special suit. He had the dog, but he didn't have a special suit.
I
he
think they
put
called him
John
the
through his
tracker.
yeah. He
Yeah.
he put John through his steps, you know? So anyway, we got 5 minutes. Let's hit this ballerina thing and talk
O-
about why
Okay.
it's going to be good or not.
Wait a minute. So the premise is it says taking place between, and this is on Wikipedia, so whatever.
Yeah,
It
yeah,
says taking place between events of Parabellum and Chapter 4, Eve Marcar Marc Macaro. I don't know. There's two R's in there, and it might be, Anyway, a ballerina assassin begins to train in the assassin traditions of Ruska Roma and sets out to exact revenge for her father's death. Ana de Armas as Eve Macaro, a ballerina who is beginning to train in the assassin tradition of the Ruska Roma. According to co-star Ian McShane, the character is under protection of Winston and Sharon in the New
mm,
York Continental Hotel during the course of the film. So it
mm,
doesn't exactly say that, but
yeah,
it sounds like but when you look at the thing, it makes it seem like this happened when she was younger.
yeah.
And so yeah, it sounded like a
I
lot
got
like Black Widow.
I got nothing against her, you know. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
she's a good actress, but why? You know, just anyway. I don't know. It's
I guess to bring it back into focus,
yeah,
I think my whole thing for that was bringing up the weapons in games and bringing up all
yeah,
this
yeah,
other
yeah, yeah.
stuff is like there
I don't know
seems
how
to
we got on John Wick.
uh because he's a walking cheat code and the
Oh,
bullets
right,
going
right,
through
right,
his
right.
suit and stuff like that. My whole point of bringing up all this stuff, especially like with the guns and stuff like that, is because like
Hmm.
sure there's a suspension of disbelief, right, with
Hmm.
guns and video games. But
Yeah.
there should also be a ground like there should be a gauge, right? The minimum
Hmm.
and the maximum of like this is
Hmm.
totally unrealistic even
Hmm.
for that game and set in universe. And there should be
Hmm.
a level of there should be enough of zaniness
Yeah.
because it is a game, right?
Yeah.
And the hard part that I have a problem with is that if you're introducing RPG mechanics into a
Hmm.
game that is relatively realistic fiction,
Hmm.
but you want to say, oh, this gun can go from grade 1 to 100. It's like, no, it's the same 5.56 that it was at level 1 and the same 5.56 that it was at level 50 and 100. Like,
Yeah.
so,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
so then it's like, there has to be a better way than leveling up the guns, right?
Yeah.
I would
Yeah. Yeah.
rather you swap that out with ammo types, like armor piercing bullets.
Yeah, I was about to say ammo types would be the way to switch out either ammo types or overall build of the
Right,
rifle.
right.
Which Red Dead does decently well.
Hmm.
Red Dead Redemption does, Red Dead 2. But I won't go too far into that because then we'll be here for much longer than I want to be. Um,
Yeah.
but so barrel length means a
Mhm.
lot.
Yeah.
So if you have a 14-inch barrel on an AR-15, um, you're going to be able to hit a lot further out than you have a 12-inch barrel.
Hmm.
You know, so if you have an 18-inch barrel, even further, you know, it's going to be very much of a long distance. Now in close quarters, um, you're going to be at a disadvantage. Uh, I will say I do like how they implemented the semi-auto versus full auto. So semi-auto has a little bit more precision. It has a little bit more. It has more distance. It has more control.
Hmm.
As far as damage though, like a full auto 5.56 versus a semi-auto 5.56, uh, not much difference when it comes to if you have the same everything, except for one's full auto, one's semi-automatic. Like that's not really gonna change anything. But
Right.
if you have a longer barrel for semi-auto, then yeah, it's gonna have higher velocity and it's gonna hit harder. It doesn't mean that it has more power, it just means it has higher velocity. So yeah, I think in that realm, like changing up ammo, changing up weapon build, that would go a long way. As well as kind of like doing a breakdown as to what that means for the player. You know,
Right.
like why do you want um you know, why would you want a shotgun buckshot versus a shotgun slug? You
Right.
know, like a 12 gauge slug versus 12 gauge buckshot. Well, buckshot isn't going to go through a wall necessarily. It won't go through concrete necessarily. A slug might, you know. Um, Close distance buckshot. If you shoot that thing and you're in a door frame, it's got a wide enough spread to where you're going to take somebody out. But if you're trying to shoot distance, you don't want to use buckshot. You want to use a slug.
Hmm.
So, you know, I think it would be good to teach people that and kind of like make a point to communicate that within game and everything too.
Right.
But
I like
That might
how
be asking too much.
yeah, no, well, no, well, I will say this. I think it's good how, like, I bring it up all the time. So, like a Metal Gear
Yeah.
Solid, right? Like, even when
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
even when you upgrade, or even like an army of two, I believe. Like,
Hmm.
when you upgrade your weapons there, it's like it's marginal.
Yeah.
Like the damage is marginal, right?
Yeah.
It's not so much to where it's like, oh, okay, well, this is completely out of range. I just think like if you're having a realistic fiction type of game where it requires like these realistic weapons or realistic base weapons, you
Hmm.
know, that, you know, and you're going to implement RPG elements for that character, you need to do it something other than the guns. You don't
Yeah.
need to level up the guns. If you want to
Level up
modify the
armor.
guns, just do different ammo types. But if you
Hmm.
want to upgrade the person, it has to be with their skills, right?
Yeah.
Especially if that person doesn't have any superpowers of any kind. So
Yeah.
maybe they can strike harder.
Hmm.
Maybe like if they're getting in a fist fight, maybe they can strike harder. Maybe you build up their strength because you have something like Fight Night in UFC, right? And it's like if you have a game that implements gunplay and fist fighting you know, um, the way that Uncharted does, let's say,
Hmm.
maybe you have to train to get good at like, you know, uh hand-to-hand combat. The only way that I can see you leveling up your gun handling um is how fast you reload.
Hmm.
That's pretty
Yeah.
much about it.
Mm, yes and no. We'll end with this.
Yeah.
Best way to do it. Train gun reload, sure. Reload speed, target acquisition.
Yeah.
So that would be all, mechanics being able to, your agility, right? That would be all agility.
You're right.
However, there's also grip on the gun. So if I go to grip a gun and I have it like this,
Hmm.
I'm limp wristing the crap out of it, right? That's not going to go anywhere.
Yeah.
If I grab it like this and I put on target, and say this is the grip, I have a good center. I got my thumbs where they need to be. I'm not going to be pulling the trigger. I'm going to be squeezing the trigger. Everything's going to be good. The reason
Hmm.
why is because this makes it an extension of your arm, while this, you're shooting down, you're limp wristing, the gun's not going to go where you want it to go. So training the person on stability, mechanics, strength, grip, all those things within a game. Like you can put that within a game.
Yeah.
Stability. Stability would be your grip. Strength would be your ability to handle recoil, and not limp wrist the crap out of things. Reload speed, agility, target acquisition, stuff like that. But
But yeah.
that being said, I will say this. As a writer, I understand because in this book that is no longer in print, Wolf Jackson, I made the character a superhero essentially. Okay.
Yeah.
Did not have plate armor, got shot up at one point. Um, if the people that read it know, they know. This one, however, a lot more realistic, a lot more relative reality to it. Why? For one, I was a little bit older when I wrote this, so I understood the mechanics of life a little bit better. And for two, I did my research on what a weapon does. I did my research on how the body reacts to things. I did my research on a lot of things. So this one is a lot more realistic and a lot more relatable to the reality. Why? Because this one fit the audience of when I was a teenager.
Hmm.
This one fits the audience for the rest of my life. I want military personnel. I want trained fighters. I want people that read this book that know what they're talking about to go, think this guy knows what he's talking about. So
And you're
that's just
working
for me.
and you're working on like re-releasing that, right? Rewriting sections of
Yeah, so this is completely remade.
okay.
Yeah, no. It's no longer going to be Wolf Jackson. It's going to be titled Wolf, a Wolf Jackson Story Book Two.
Okay.
So it's going to be his story. You had his best friend's story, Kid, and now you're going to have his story.
Okay.
So, yeah, yeah.
Well, I just want actually that's a pretty good place to end it. Cade
Cade,
out.
a Wolf Jackson story. It's out on Amazon.
Yep.
Y'all missed the opportunity to get the hardback for cheap and this for cheap. Now it's 17.99 for the paperback and it's 29.99 for the hardback. But I will be going on tour November 23rd, all over Iowa, starting in Ankeny. Check it out. Get your signed copy. I will be selling books at my table, but it's going to be more than on Amazon because I got to ship it and I got to sign it. So
Right.
you bring in your book, I'll sign it. But if you're going to buy it at the table, it's going to cost you.
And I guess there you have it.
There you have it.
Listen, the
This is what we
mechanics
do.
of myth. Mechanics
We
of
myth
myth.
the mechanics.
We
We myth
myth
the
the
mechanics.
mechanics.
We
And
mechanic the myths. And
yep.
that being said, I love you.
Yeah. All right, guys, thank you so much for watching this. If you're on YouTube or Rumble or what, Kick or something like that, if we decide to
River
put it up there.
Stream, if
Yeah,
you're on,
yeah.
I don't know what kick is. If we're on,
I heard Kick somewhere.
the digits, if you're on the digits, whatever the digits are, if
If
you're on them,
if you're on the Facey Spacies, if you're on the
yeah,
Facey Spacies or the intertweebs or the
yeah,
X's or O's or wherever it is that you go,
yes,
um,
yes.
we're glad
The
that you're
tickety
watching
talks.
the Tickety Talks. You mentioned your Tickety Talks.
Yep.
We're glad that you're watching, and if you're listening to us on like whatever audio podcast platform that you're listening to this on, we appreciate you.
Yes.
So thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll see you guys later. Stay blessed, stay encouraged in Jesus' name.
Yes, sir. God bless.